James and Ben back for Odds Checker US. We're going to be taking a look at Saturday's UFC Austin card, which goes down at the Moody Center in Austin, Texas. Let me get everything up on the screen here. Pretty decent fight night event that we got going on. We're going to start first in the middleweight division. We've got Julian Marquez taking on Gregory Rodriguez. And right now it's the Brazilian Robocop minus 200. The comeback on Julian Marquez plus 165. Who you liking here, Ben? Who do you think gets it done?
I think it's interesting. A lot of juice on a lot of these fights tonight, so it's going to be hard. This weekend, I think we're going to have to do some parlays. I think Marquez here, he has a plus 900 submission prop, which is a little interesting to me considering his last 3 wins were all by submission. Of course, Rodriguez, he has really strong jiu-jitsu, so I think it's going to be a more difficult fight for Marquez this time around. But I think it is a spot that I might take a stab at that prop. I think it's the only play here. I don't know if I want to back Rodriguez with that much juice. You know, Marquez has great cardio. He can work and scramble in those positions to find that submission. But I don't know. I just don't think I want to take the juice here. Rodriguez has never been submitted before, so of course that's hard. But I think the only play I would actually take here is maybe that plus 900 submission prop. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I didn't even realize it was that high because you're right. That's exactly how he wins his fights. If you remember the Maki Pitolo fight, he was losing that fight, and then at the end, he gets a submission victory. So
Yep.
He's got a great ground game. He's got some knockout power too, right? We saw him knock out Phil Haas in Contender Series a few years ago. We have seen Rodriguez knocked out. The pick for me is going to be Rodriguez just because he's been more active. Julian's had a lot of health issues. I'm not sure exactly. Like, I remember he was out for a couple of years after the Trico loss, and then he came back, and then he was supposed to fight Kyle Dawkins, and that fell out. So that's a little bit of a concern, added in the fact that, yeah, like I said, Rodriguez has been a little bit more active. So the pick's going to be Rodriguez, but I'm with you. I think there's one play here, and it's Julian Marquez by submission, because other than that, like, Marquez has never been finished. So, you know, I saw some people saying maybe Rodriguez by submission or Rodriguez by knockout. I'm not willing to take that risk in a 3-round fight. So I'm with you. I think the only play I would make is the Marquez by submission prop, just because the value is good there. And this is something we talk about on the show a lot, is you got to look at value sometimes. If Marquez was plus 100 by submission, it's not really, I mean, yeah, you're getting plus money, but still it's not as good as plus 900. So I think I totally agree with you on that play. And like I said, I'm going to pick Rodriguez to get it done, but if I was to bet this, I think it's a dog or pass situation. Okay, next fight we're going to look at here is in the lightweight division. We've got Demir taking on Guram. Really exciting fight, kind of showcasing 2 up-and-comers in the weight class. And right now, the odds makers have Demir as the slight favorite at minus 170. The comeback from Guram plus 145. Close fight, like the odds indicate. Which way are you going in this one?
Yeah, I think the odds are pretty close on this one, and that's pretty telling to me. It's hard, but I am going to go with Guram here. I think they're both pretty all-around fighters, to be honest. But I've seen Guram. He was actually working with like Khamzat Chimaev a little bit. I think he's been working. He's had a little bit of time off, so we don't exactly really know what we're going to see. His last fight was in 2020, so it's hard to tell exactly what fighter's going to come out like. But he's coming off a good win, and I think that, you know, there could be some takedowns back and forth. I do think this is going to be a really close fight. I think could even be like a split decision type of thing. But I think that I'm going to go with Guram here, just with he's a big fighter for this lightweight division, right? You know, Ismagulov, he's more of like a lengthy fighter, but I think with his size that Guram might have a little more success with the takedowns in this fight to just kind of edge that out. But this is a really close fight, so it's hard to tell. But I do like the underdog in this one.
And kind of like the last fight, I'm picking Demir in this fight. No bet for me, even though, you know, it's still decent, like, you know, minus 170. But I could totally see Guram going out there and getting the upset here. To me, again, if you're betting this, another dog or pass situation, because it is such a 50-50 fight. To me, it's like, which fighter's going to show up the best? I don't know. Like, both are good, but both have had some, you know, some fights where it's like, okay, what's going on here? So the pick's going to be Demir, but I do like your pick of Guram for the dog play. That was a dog I was looking at actually on this card as well. Okay, next fight we're going to look at here. Is the fight in the middleweight division. Joaquin Buckley taking on Albert Duraev. And right now, the odds makers have Duraev as the favorite at minus 200. The comeback on Buckley, plus 170. What are you thinking in this one?
This one's another tough spot for me. You know, a lot of juice. I would back Duraev here in a normal position, but with that juice, unless you're going to like parlay it with something, I like Buckley actually by a knockout for plus 250. You know, one of the craziest knockouts we've ever seen against Impa Kasagane. He was actually plus 230 in that fight, and then he got that 2nd-round knockout. So, you know, maybe another situation here. He has a lot of power, but then I mean, he can just grind this one out. I mean, he has excellent top control, excellent wrestling, and Buckley has actually shown some of those holes in his wrestling game. So I would not be surprised if Duraev just comes out here and he's just pounding on him for 15 minutes on the ground, just in that top control, some ground and pound, maybe even for a finish. But it's really hard for me. I would put Duraev in a parlay. because I think he will win. But I do think that plus 250 knockout prop is worth it if you're going to look at the underdog in this situation, because Buckley definitely has that power to put him away. So
Buckley's had a weird career, right? Because you mentioned the highlight reel knockout, but then he's been knocked out too by, was it Kevin Holland knocked him out, and who's the other guy? It was Di Chirico knocked him out too, which we weren't really expecting. Di Chirico knocked him out and Holland knocked him out. Okay, I did get that right. So yeah, I don't know. Like there's fights where again, like, and then some of the guys that he's knocked out, like Jordan Wright's been knocked out plenty of times. Arroyo's been knocked out. So to me, it's like, either it seems like he gets knocked out or his opponents do. I think if Buckley wins, it's not going to be a decision, even though he did win a split in his last fight. So I do look at, if you like Buckley at all in this one, go for the knockout prop. But I think Duraev just a little bit older, a little bit bigger in this fight in terms of the height. I think he's got like a 1-inch height advantage in this one. Yeah, it's tough. I'm going to pick Duraev. I think he might actually get a decision here, to be honest. Like you were saying, with the wrestling neutralizing Buckley, maybe look at that decision prop a little bit. But I'm going Duraev in this fight. I think it's his fight to lose, so to speak. So that's how I'm going on this one. Okay, next fight we're going to look at here. Tim Means taking on Kevin Holland. And right now the odds makers have Kevin Holland as a moderate favorite here at minus 240. The comeback on the Dirty Bird, plus 195. Who are you liking here? Big age gap, too, here, 38 to 29.
Yeah, that age gap is going to be really interesting in this fight because, Means, he's the more, I'd say, technical striker, but Holland is very athletic. He is lengthy. And I think that athleticism and youth could be what edges it out. But, he's minus 280. So, like I said, there's a lot of juice on this card. So I think, if anything, parlay, maybe Kevin Holland with Duraev to bring some of that juice down. But, yeah, like I said, Holland, I think that athleticism is going to play out a little bit better. But Means has good cardio, and he's a little bit older, and he's a little more technical. I don't know. I think Holland could land this one just on damage. If anything, I'd look at the decision prop to bring it down a little bit. But this is actually kind of a harder fight because I think the odds should be a little bit closer in this one. Because, technically speaking, these guys are very close with the striking. So it's a hard fight to call for me. It's actually like a no play for me. If anything, throw Holland in a parlay. But hard fight to call.
I agree. I did have a chance to speak to Tim before this fight. I asked him at 38, how much longer do you see yourself competing? And he's like, until I get to that point where I feel like I'm kind of losing a bit of steam here. And, I think there's a way for Tim Means to win this fight. I just don't think he's going to use it. And that is to wrestle. We know how to beat Kevin Holland. You out wrestle him. Tim Means is not really a wrestler. He's a striker. Speaking of Tim, and it's understandable, he wants to make this like a fight of the night type performance. I don't see him winning that strategy against Kevin Holland. I think Holland is the better striker. Tim Means might be more technical, but Holland's so much faster, younger. I like Holland here as well. And you got to remember that Holland, obviously, second fight at welterweight, he was a former middleweight. So that's also got to play a role in this too a little bit, even though Tim Means is actually 6'2". But you look at the reach difference. Holland has an 81-inch reach. Tim Means just a 75. So if they're going to get in those striking exchanges, I would favor Holland there. Maybe you take a Holland by decision. I think Tim Means, the last knockout loss he had, I want to say it was Daniel Rodriguez, unless that was a submission loss. No, yeah, it was standing submission loss. Nico Price would have been the last knockout loss. He's a tough guy to put away. So that's why I could see a potential decision here. So maybe look at the Holland by decision prop. But Holland should win this, kind of like the last one. It's his fight to lose, in my opinion. So I'm going to take Kevin Holland just because I think this will stay standing. Okay, co-main event. Donald Cerrone taking on Joe Lauzon, and right now the odds makers have Cowboy as the slight favorite at minus 165. The comeback on Joe Lauzon plus 145. This fight would have been really interesting maybe 5 years ago, but they still got some name power. That's why it's the co-main event. But who you liking in sort of this end of the road fight, so to speak?
Yeah, we've been waiting a little bit for this one. We were supposed to see it in the Oliveira card, but we finally get it, and I'm not sure whether to be excited or sad because we're kind of seeing both of these guys' careers tail off. Cerrone, I don't think he should be getting a price like this anymore. I mean, we haven't seen the guy win in literally years, back to 2019, which is coincidentally the last time that Lauzon even fought. He hasn't fought in 3 years. So, I mean, it's really hard for me to see a guy like Lauzon with his age come out after 3 years of not fighting and just expect anything from him. But who knows? I could be surprised. He's a very fast starter. I think this fight will play out crazy in the first round. These guys want to put on a good fight. They know they're getting old. They know they're at the end of their careers. Probably not going to see another title fight, especially not for Cerrone. So I think I will have to back Cowboy here, even with the price. I think the price is high for a reason. They don't really expect Lauzon to come out and do much, which I don't know. He's a really fast starter. He gets this done in the first round. The under 1.5 at plus 115 is actually intriguing to me because, like I said, I think these guys just want to put on a good fight. This is more of just a callback to the earlier stages of their careers, and it's two old guys going up against each other, and they're both very fragile at this point in their careers. So, I mean, they've both got multiple knockout losses over their past 5. So it feels like the first guy who lands their big shot in the first round here is going to go down, to be honest. So I would take Cowboy in this fight.
And I'm going the other way on this one. I did have a chance to speak to Lauzon before this. This was back when the fight was on UFC 274. Of course, they had to move the fight, but Lauzon could have just retired, right? I was at that fight actually in person and at the UFC Boston card. He finished Jonathan Pierce. He was an underdog in that fight. He ended up going out there and getting it done. And I mean, he could have walked off in the sunset. So I think it's very strategic for Lauzon to come back and take this fight. I think he's not going to take this unless he feels like he has a really good shot at doing this fight, because he, like I said, he could have retired on a high note. And the other thing that we haven't really talked about here is that this is going to be Cerrone's first fight at lightweight since the Justin Gaethje fight back in September of 2019. I do wonder about that weight cut for him. It's not easy. It's not like Cerrone's like a poster child for, eating healthy and all this stuff. So I could see it being a tough cut for him. And you got a guy in Lauzon who's fought at lightweight his whole career. He's never moved up, right? So I think that does favor Lauzon a little bit here. The other thing is the damage that Cerrone's taken in his last couple fights. Like Alex Morono, don't get me wrong, Morono's a solid 170er. He's not a quick finisher. He finished him in the first round with a standing TKO. And again, I know at welterweight they hit harder, but I just look at the damage he's taken in that fight. The McGregor fight, he got knocked out. Gaethje got knocked out. Tony Ferguson, there was an eye injury there, but he was getting pieced up in that fight too. Lauzon has taken some losses, but not nearly as bad as what Cerrone's had, because Cerrone's fighting better guys. So I do wonder the damage factor too. And if you're cutting that extra weight, you're more susceptible to the knockout. There's less water in your body, all that stuff. So I think Lauzon here at plus 145. I think that it's worth a stab here to see if he can get it done. And I'm going Lauzon by knockout. I think he does it, and he surprised a lot of people, and then he retires off this big win on Cowboy Cerrone. That's my theory on that.
I like that.
Yeah, so we'll see. Main event, Calvin Kattar, Josh Emmett. Love this matchup here. Right now, Calvin Kattar is the favorite at minus 240. Come back on Josh Emmett plus 195. Which way are you going here?
This one's really interesting to me to see in a 5-round fight, because it's Emmett's second time actually going 5 rounds, but he's never made it 5 rounds before. He was knocked out in the second round of his only other 5-round fight. So I think this is going to be interesting to see how the time plays out in the championship rounds. Well, not championship rounds, but main event rounds in 4 and 5 there, because Kattar, he's gone 25 minutes in his past 3 fights. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see that 4th and 5th round. Emmett has a lot of power in this fight, power advantage for sure, but I think Kattar's the better striker. He just was actually a pretty big underdog, plus 185 against Giga Chikadze in his last fight, and he absolutely dominated. So I think that kind of seeing the better boxer over 5 rounds is going to be a little bit better than seeing maybe Emmett's power in the first few rounds. And Kattar's never been knocked out before professionally. So I think the knockout is off the table for Emmett. Maybe he gets his first finish here, but I don't see it in this spot against a really solid striker in Kattar. So I think that the high volume striker over 5 rounds is a better bet. I think he'd be a really good parlay piece, maybe with Duraev, as we both liked earlier. So.
Yeah, very, very, completely agree on all the points you made. I would argue that Josh Emmett might be the guy that he's fought that has the most power. Like, I think he's got more power than Max Holloway. So that's where things get, I think that's a big question in this fight. Can Josh Emmett knock out Calvin Kattar? It's possible, right? Like, we saw Max Holloway completely batter Kattar, but he wasn't able to put him away. Now, some referees, some corners might have stopped that fight. In fact, I think they should have, because Kattar was not coming back and winning that fight against Holloway in the later rounds. So that's the question. But you look at the last fight against Chikadze, like, he had no problems at all. I didn't like that fight for Kattar to come back to, because you got a guy in Chikadze who also has knockout power. In fact, now that I'm kind of thinking about it, I would say Chikadze and Emmett have similar power, but it's a bit different, because Emmett's more of like a, one punch power guy, whereas Chikadze, he's got the kicks. He's a kickboxer, right? So that's more of what his strength is here. So I think that's the big question. But the X factor for me is 2 things. Number one, I think Kattar's the better striker, technically. And also, like you mentioned, the cardio factor and just the lack of activity for Josh Emmett. Like, he's been dealing with a lot of injuries. He's a little bit older here too at 37. Like, you look at it here, he fought in December against Dan Ige, which, looking back now, that's not that great of a win considering what Ige did in his last fight. He was dominated, and that was a close fight with Ige, maybe too close. Beat Shane Burgos prior to that. And then you look at it here, 2019, didn't fight till June the next year. Then he fought again in December. And now he's fighting here in June. I don't like the lack of activity. And I know that Kattar did take almost a year off after fighting Holloway, but still, I feel like Kattar overall has been a little bit more active. I'm liking Kattar here. I might actually take the Kattar by decision prop. I don't know if he finishes Emmett over the 5-round fight. It's possible, but Emmett's got good cardio. I know we haven't seen it in 5 rounds, but I do wonder, just because Kattar, like he has finished opponents, but they're typically guys that you see get finished, like a Ricardo Lamas or Jeremy Stevens. I don't know if he finishes a Josh Emmett, so I might look at that. But either way, again, this is Kattar's fight to lose. That's how I look at it. I don't see him getting knocked out by Josh Emmett. Maybe this is the fight where it happens, but I just don't see that happening. And yeah, I'm going Kattar by decision in this fight. What do you think? Yeah, kind of agreed there. Yeah.
Yeah, Kattar by decision is actually, it brings the juice down heavily. I see it plus 125 on the one book I just looked at. So I mean, excellent way to take down the juice on that fight if you like Kattar a lot. And I agree. I don't think he's going to finish a guy like Emmett. We just saw him grind out 3 decision victories. So I think we see something similar in this fight where it's just a striking exchange and he just outpoints him simply. So.
Yeah. And you remember he took Chikaze to a decision as well. He wasn't able to finish him either. That's kind of another reason why I think that could happen.
Definitely.
Okay, one more thing I wanted to mention on this card, just as like a little side note. I wanted to talk quickly about this Adrian Yanez and Tony Kelly fight, just because I've seen a lot of different opinions. You can see Adrian Yanez minus 360. I like Yanez in this fight. I feel like people are totally overlooking Tony Kelly. And I think part of it is 2 reasons. Number one, Yanez is an extremely popular fighter online. He's, part of that MMA Twitter stuff and just a really likable guy. And people hate Tony Kelly because of the comments he made in the corner of his girlfriend, Andrea Lee. So I feel like that's blinding a lot of people to how good Tony Kelly is. I think people made that mistake in Kelly's last fight when people were expecting, I think, was it Randy Costa fought last fight? I can't remember exactly, but there was a fight where I remember that, like people thought, and people thought that Costa was going to win that fight. Again, similar thing, fan favorite fighter here. So I'm not necessarily saying that Kelly will win, but the plus 280 for him, that's some good value there in a fight that I think could go either way. And I think could potentially hit the scorecards with Kelly potentially pulling off an upset here. So just wanted to mention that tidbit because that's something I see a lot of people talking about, that, Yanez is going to win. But I think this is a case where people are maybe amplifying the more popular fighter as opposed to looking at this fight at the core level. I just wanted to get your thoughts on this fight because I thought that was kind of interesting on the prelims.
Yeah, I agree with definitely that the public can inflate lines heavily because the books are going to skew lines that they're just trying to get even action on both sides. So if they know a lot of people are going to bet on Yanez, they're going to inflate that line, which happens a lot in MMA. We see really popular fighters get their lines inflated like that. So I definitely think that it's wise to always fade that and go in the other direction because you're getting value at the pure fighting level. You're getting probably better odds than what the public is seeing. So. I would agree in that spot that I think that it's a dog or pass for me. I maybe throw down as in a parlay, but again, that's what I feel like I'm saying that for almost every fight because there's a lot of
no, but you're right. Like you're not getting much value with minus 360. Like that's
not much value.
That's too high of a line in my opinion. I think it should be. I would put him at maybe 2-1 or even like a minus 150. I do think Kelly's that good, and I feel like people are not giving him the credit because of all the other stuff, right? So that just wanted to mention that quick tidbit
dog or pass
on this card. Opinion. Yeah. Anything else on this card, or shall we wrap things up? It's again a pretty decent card for a fight night event.
Yeah, it is a really good card to not see pay-per-view in this one. So I think we're in for a fun night. But I think that's it for me.
Okay, well, there you go. And that's it for me as well. Again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button here on this channel if you haven't already. We do the show every week. For myself, for Ben, thank you so much for watching.